what we're going to talk about right now is how people were educated back in that time period in Galilee when they were little kids. So there was the regular education, and that basically worked out like this. Between the ages of 4 and 5 in Beth Safer, that's elementary school, they had classes in the synagogue. So these little kids went, and it's basically the same thing as like elementary school to us now. They would memorize, by the time they finished elementary school, they would have memorized the whole Torah, the complete Torah, completely. Can you imagine how much that would be?
And what is the Torah?
We'll get to that. Mr. Wilson, go ahead. What is the Torah?
No, the Torah is the Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus. No, it's not.
No.
I thought it was
Nice
the first
try,
five
though.
Bible, first five.
No, that's the Isn't that the
I
Pentateuch?
thought the Pentateuch was the first 5 books.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what I
okay,
just said.
that's what it is. Okay.
Okay. So, once they got done with that amount of schooling, most students, and definitely the girls, would stay home after that, and they would help out with their family business or whatever their trade was. The girls would learn how to keep house and take care of everything. Then from there, the boys would participate in their first Passover in Jerusalem. Okay? So basically the scale that they went by and what they believed was 5-year-olds were fit to learn scripture. So when you were 5 years old, you could learn scripture.
Wow.
When you became 10 years old, now I know I'm going to mispronounce this. When you're 10 years old, you got to learn the Mishnah, which is the oral Torah, and you learned about interpretations. When you turned 13 years old, they believed that you could start fulfilling commandments. So they believed that at that point you understood and you could start.
That's why they had the bar mitzvah for boys.
Right. Well, they didn't have the bar mitzvah then, but we'll get to that in a second. At 15 years old, they had the Talmud, which refers to a compilation of ancient teachings regarded as sacred, and it's learned by all Jews. So that's the Talmud. And that is when they start learning that is at 15. So as you can see, they've started out with scripture. They move up with each year. By the age of 18, they go into what they call the bride chamber, which basically means at that point they can get married. Bride chamber means like the marriage bed. 20 years old, they choose their vocation and they start, well, they don't normally choose it. It's already chosen for them, whatever their family does. But that's when they start working like full time in their vocation. And then at 30 years old, they're able to teach. Okay? So that's a regular education. Now, those poor little kids, they get done and they go off and do their vocation. But if you're considered someone that was gifted or really, really smart, then you would get to go to Beth Midrash, I believe is how you pronounce it, which is secondary school. Oh, I thought you were going to say something. They still learn a trade too while they're going to the secondary school. So this is basically like for the really, really smart people. They get to go to this school. They're still learning a trade. They would study with adults and with the rabbi. So there would be a rabbi teaching, there would be other adults there, and now they start to learn. They studied the prophets and the writings in addition to the Torah. So the whole time they're still learning the Torah, but now they're learning about the prophets and their writings. Then they would move on and they would start to learn about interpretation of the oral Torah. So now they're getting into, they learned about what it was, now they're learning how it's done. And then moving on from there, they start to make their own interpretations. Now, once they're done with this, the very, very best students get asked by the rabbi to follow him and to now become like an apprentice. Actually, what it is called is a Talmudim, which is what that class I took was, a Talmudim class. And what Talmudim basically means in Hebrew is disciple. So they become an actual disciple. Now, the part that is really fascinating about all of this is that when they start following the rabbi, they leave their home completely and they start traveling with him for long periods of time. They don't look at it as a job. They look at it as they want to follow and do and understand and remember everything that their rabbi says. It becomes their whole life. Like it's all about learning what the rabbi is teaching them. Once they get done with that, then they get to go and they create their own Talmudim men. So now they get like graduated. They're not priests or rabbis or anything like that, but they're now like a teacher, and they bring in their own Talmudim, and then they start teaching them from what they learned. So it was like an extreme honor to get chosen for this to be a Talmudim. Not everybody got to do it, and only a few people got to go to that level. And so when you're of that age and the rabbi comes out and says, "Will you follow me?" it becomes super important. So now if you move on into how Jesus went around and asked, he would go to these people who are just normal people doing fishing and stuff like that, and he would ask them to follow him. So now you got to think about these kids who are these young men who went all of this time wanting to be the person that gets to go to the rabbi, and they never got to do it. They had to go into the vocation and into their family business. And now the rabbi of all rabbis is there and says, "Follow me." So that's where it becomes so important that they are not just going to be the disciples or the apostles, they're going to be following the rabbi. It's almost like they get a second chance to be of the best of the best. So that's where their schooling goes.